everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Franchising 360 show brought to you by FranCoach. I am Tim Parmeter, and with me, as always, is Danielle Wright.
That's me.
Every week on the Franchising 360 show, we are going to take a 360-degree look at the franchise industry. We're going to discuss things that you need to know to determine if you should own a franchise. If so, how to find the best one for you, tips to succeed once you're a franchise owner, and also how to take your existing business and turn it into a franchise. Tonight, we have a guest joining us, and we're going to get to that in a second. Danielle, you got a franchise fun Friday.
You missed all of the tee-ups. Like, come on.
No, man, I'm excited for the Friday franchise fun fact.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Americans spend how much a day at franchise restaurants?
Well, we are $25 on ourselves today.
No.
So
I don't think I wanted everyone to know that.
I'm gonna say $10 million.
More.
$100 million.
More.
$2 billion.
Not quite. So fast casual food franchises are cooking up big numbers, as they'd like to say. We spend over $1 billion a day at franchise restaurants.
$1 billion a day?
Yep.
Wow.
And we've bounced back from pre-pandemic numbers in 2025. So we're ahead of the curve.
So basically we're all just back to being lazy
and needing our fast casual foods. But it's not always bad. Like McDonald's, okay, fine. That's, QSR, quick service. But fast casual is like the Chipotles of the world.
So we could have gotten a sandwich or a salad mixed in there somehow.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't say that it had anything to do with intake. I'm just saying we're spending a lot of money.
That is an insane amount of money.
Right. And yet, we've got recession fears and global issues and all of the things. But we're not discussing that on the Franchising 360 show.
Everybody's got to eat.
We gotta discuss the guest.
We do have to discuss the guest. And in a topic we've not really talked about, and I think one that people don't naturally equate to being a franchise.
No, I have questions and I still don't understand it.
So, perhaps you can get those questions answered here next. So, we've got really our next guest is been the CEO for over 20 years of the leading and premier business coaching franchise.
Which you love.
Not just in the US, but in the whole dang world. Which is pretty cool.
It's got the whole world.
And he's going to share his journey. Danielle promises not to sing anymore. Their brand and their mission. And then just a little bit of insight about franchising. So I'm excited to get to our guest.
Yeah. It's one of your favorites. You have a real bromance with that organization.
I do. I love the people within the organization.
But he can't be a franchise owner.
I would be a terrible franchise owner for that brand, but love everything that they do.
But you're also a client of that brand.
I am indeed.
Bromance.
I am indeed.
All right. So when do we get into it?
We are coming back right after this. That's Danielle Wright. I'm Tim Parmeter. We'll be back with our guest after this on the Franchising 360 show. All right. We are back on the Franchising 360 show. I'm Tim Parmeter. With me as always is Danielle Wright. And joining us from parts near and far, we have the CEO of the absolute leading business coaching franchise in the entire world, the one and only Mr. Steve Thompson. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share some time on your show. I've seen the episodes.
Absolutely. No, we got a bunch to ask you and just we're going to pretend to be nice at the beginning, but be ready because the questions are going to be hard hitting here as we go. But, this has been in franchising a long time. This is a people business. Give us a quick scoop on who the heck is Steve and how'd you get into this crazy world?
Well, thank you. Again, thanks, Tim and Danielle, for having me here. Who is Steve? Well, I'm the CEO of FocalPoint. We're a business coaching and consulting franchise. I'm based out of Vancouver, Canada. Helped my partner, Brian Tracy, and I start the franchise 21 years ago out of Nevada. So now we're in, 20 countries across the world with hundreds of coaches and franchisees, and got my entrepreneurial chops in a different industry, but fell in love with business ownership many years ago.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about you're talking about FocalPoint Business Coaching and in franchising. We're not too smart. So usually the name of the franchise is somewhat indicative, but what the heck is FocalPoint Business Coaching?
Well, yeah, and I guess even more so with FocalPoint, because business coaching isn't the typical franchise that maybe some people think about, a food or a retail franchise. And what we are is we're a network of business coaches, consultants, people that work with business leaders, executives, and business owners to help them improve their role in the corporation or their business that they've taken on as their baby for most of the time, many, many years. So we help them with that. And the people we have coming in come with really strong experience in leadership. That's the key quality of the people we look for from pretty much every industry. But business coaching has, over the 21 years evolved from an obscurity as a name into a market. So we've been ahead of the curve there. And as you mentioned, one of the prominent figures in that.
Absolutely. Danielle, do you have a question for Mr. Thompson? No.
No, my dad's not on the line.
Right. Yeah, that's not true. I'm letting me get the fluff ones out of the way, and then she's coming in hard with the tough ones. But talk a little bit about, business coaching. Are we talking about working with like small little mom and pops? Are we talking about major corporations? Give us an idea of kind of some of those clients are.
Sure. Well, we were definitely born in the small to medium enterprise business coaching space. And that has evolved into coaching leaders in organizations and in businesses themselves. So you can definitely say that, the Vince Lombardi blocking and tackling is working with small to medium enterprise business owners, people that can make decisions in their business. They don't necessarily have to go to a board. Typically, they're anywhere from, $1 million to $40 million in revenues. And they are running a good business, but they want to be great. To use an old Jim Collins ism from the book Good to Great, they want to take their business to the next level, and they can't see the forest from the trees some days.
That's a hard thing to do, as a business owner. Sometimes, even for us being able to do that. So can definitely see some of the things that, can come into play and really kind of across all different industries. It's a wide range, which really gives your owners an opportunity to kind of carve their own path in the business coaching realm, correct?
Yeah, and that's, I think, I've said the term, we're the franchise for the disenfranchised sometimes because it isn't atypical. And whether we're, helping, a pseudo medical type company like chiropractic care or a restaurant navigate the pandemic times when the waters were uncharted and they needed help, or helping people in the past through the financial crisis or today, there's a lot going on in the economy and around the world that affects businesses of all sizes, and they need help navigating it. So one of the reasons we're so successful, if we've got hundreds of coaches working in the background with thousands of clients, so they're never relying on just one person's help. And that's what gives us one of our huge advantages is working together as a group at FocalPoint and having that information available to our clients.
Gotcha. How much, if any, kind of industry experience do you need somebody coming in as a potential owner? Do they need to have been doing a lot of this already, or any certain kind of industry or niche that really matters?
No, not necessarily, Tim. The requirements are more around purpose and what they want to do, around their leadership skill and style, their ability to communicate. We have a lot of coaches that come in that have been in the corporate world and, quite frankly, have been disenchanted with the corporate world. So they don't ever want to work with corporate clients again. Well, that's great. Well, then they are now coaching in the small to medium range that they maybe not have any industry experience. That's okay. If they come with the right leadership skill set, we can teach them with our franchise tools and processes and systems how to help those businesses. And the coaches themselves find a new passion in it, more of a purpose in helping that person or persons in the company take their company to a level they've never had. And what it provides for that business owner and their family, our coaches just glow with that. That's when they ring the bell. That's when we ring the bell, is when the clients have the successes. They maybe were working 80 hours a week and now can work 40 instead of 80 and have time to be with their family family. They can go to soccer games or recitals or that kind of thing. Or maybe even it's they didn't have the college education funds saved for their children. And now they do because of where they've been able to take their business. So the people we look for are driven by purpose and what they do, and they get significant gratification out of that.
Nice. Well, and we just literally last week on the Franchising 360 show talked about some of those things from a time perspective. Steve, I'm sure you caught that episode, but if not, we can definitely get that on our YouTube channel. We got a bunch more we want to talk to you about regarding FocalPoint Business Coaching. We're going to do that when we come back here on the Franchising 360 show. Welcome back to the Franchising 360 show. I'm Tim Parmeter with Danielle Wright, who was eerily quiet the last time. I think that's going to come back to haunt us all now. And joining us, Steve Thompson, the CEO of FocalPoint Business Coaching. Steve, thanks again for joining us. I lobbed in some easy ones trying to make you feel comfortable here on the show, but here comes the hammer.
Oh, I have to be the hammer? I don't understand that logic. Okay, they're on me about asking questions. So I don't really quite understand what FocalPoint is. I've shown it a couple of times to some clients, but imagine that the viewers are watching and you're talking business coaching, and why would this be a business that I would want to do? Maybe I've lost my job and I'm being shown this by a franchise consultant. What are 3 things that you could tell us that say, hey, maybe you should consider this as an opportunity for yourself, and in very basic terms, as in, I know nothing about franchising. I know nothing about business coaching. Tell me why this should be something that I would want to look at.
This sounds great, Danielle. And I guess the number one thing, and this applies to more than FocalPoint, but someone wanting complete control of the balance of their life. I know you have a lot of great offerings that are retail and food, that there are mall and retail hours and that kind of thing that come into play. This is the opposite of that. Our opportunity allows the coach to have total balance. It's actually one of the reasons I got into this in the beginning was way back in mid 1999. I fell into business coaching, fortunately for me, obviously. And it's because, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I had worked a lot in my previous company and maybe wasn't as home as much as I'd liked. And so I wanted to be there for my kids. I wanted to be able to go to recitals and or field trips and or be the soccer coach. And this afforded me that, because in business coaching, we set block schedules and we set no-fly zones. And a no-fly zone for me, as an example, is Friday afternoon. I can go for a mountain bike ride or a hike with my wife. I get to put that in there ironclad. So that's one reason, is balance and complete control of our schedules. And I know there's other offerings that do that. Another thing that's really important as a focal point coach, and I come back to this a lot, but someone that fits our culture and is purpose driven. We have a very, very high margin business. We have coaches that earn extremely well. That said, and profitability is one of our culture points. I want to be clear there, but the coaches that do the best are very purpose driven. They want to help someone get ahead. They want to mentor someone. They want to coach someone. They want to help lead someone. So typically the people coming in are people who have held management roles or owned a company or been in that leadership position where, they say their door is always open and people actually walked into the door. I know a lot of people where they say, hey, my door is always open, and everybody avoids that open door. We're the type of group where people walk through the door, they sit down and they want to have a conversation because that mentorship comes naturally to them. So that's another key. And then another third key is they've always been a leader in some shape or form. And, there's all sorts of ways we can define what a leader is and what it means, but I'll give you a great example of one of our more recent coaches coming on board. She's a wonderful young woman in her 30s who doesn't have an extensive business experience, has good business experience, but in her early 30s has also been a very leader style person in her sporting life. In college, she was a captain of her basketball team. Everybody always came to her with their problems on and off the court. And she really took steps forward to help people as that leader. And she understood how a team works together. So those are the kinds of skills that make up a really good focal point coach. Now, why would someone want to do it? Complete control over their schedule. They're purpose driven, and they like to be a collaborative leader where they're working with someone to help come up with a solution. Not like typical consulting. We do some consulting work, but it's not going in and telling someone what to do. It's teaching someone how to fish, not giving them a fish. And that's where the owner and or the leader you're working with, they'll get the most gratification is when they come up with the solutions. And they always credit the coach, which is pretty funny because they come up with it when we pull from them. But people that get a charge out of that, those are the people that really fall in love with Focal Point.
And Steve, you guys talk a lot about that difference, and it's Focal Point coaching. It's not Focal Point consulting, and that difference between coaching and consulting.
Hey, I'm going to interrupt. Thanks, Steve, for answering my question. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Danielle.
Good job. But talk a little bit about that coaching consulting, because there is a tangible difference for you guys. And then that kind of leads to the tenure that you have those clients as a Focal Point owner, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, I'm very transparent, as you know, and our coaches can and do some consulting work. If they get a consulting project that comes across their desk where they're going to make six figures in a couple of months, and they'll take it if they want. That's their choice. And that gets back to the sort of style of franchise that we are. We're not an empire franchise like a McDonald's where you get in a lot of trouble if you try to use a different ketchup. And we're not an entrepreneurial startup. We're in what's called a stage 3 franchise. We're in a stage 3 franchise. It's a plug and play with input from the franchisee, from a coach. So the coach has the ability to construct their business the way they want. So there's my long preamble to actually answering your question now. So the difference between coaching and consulting is that, again, we're not going to give them a fish. So we have processes to lead them through to come up with solutions and answers that they know, they just don't know they know it. And we pull from them, from their knowledge and their business and their experience. I'm not going to be able to go into a glass manufacturing company and help them make a better product. That's not what I do. You need to hire a consultant for that, or you have it from the people within your staff. That's not Steve. That's not Coach Focal Point. What Focal Point does is they ask the right questions to make sure the leader or the owner understands that I do need a better glass product because here's what the market is doing. So whether it's a menu in a restaurant or manufacturing glass, we know the process to lead people through to make sure they're achieving the best they can rather than fixing it. And in the book, Focal Point by my partner, Brian Tracy, there's a nice fable in there where it's basically the consultant going in and drawing the X on the broken gauge. That's not us. We're leading people on what gauges are needed.
Excellent. So, Steve, a little bit more on that here when we come back on the Franchising 360 show. Hey, we are back on the Franchising 360 show. I'm Tim Parmeter with Danielle Wright, and joining us from Vancouver, Canada, the CEO of Focal Point Coaching, Steve Thompson. Steve, you talked a little bit about kind of the traits you're looking for, all the different things your owners can do. Have you ever had a candidate come in and go, I don't need Focal Point, I can do this on my own?
And if you haven't, I'm sure you are lying right now.
Right. Obviously I know you have, because there's probably been some FranCoach clients that have wanted that at some point. How do you kind of address that with some of the kind of support mechanisms that you have?
Well, I don't know if it's a different take, but our take is definitely if someone comes in very strong-headed that they have what it takes to do it on their own, we wish them well. And I say that with with a smile on my face. What we do know is that it's tough. It's simple, but it's not easy. And to do this on your own, I tell everybody that joins Focal Point, if you didn't have the capability to do this on your own, we wouldn't want you. This is not I love my neighbor's kids that are 13 years old. They couldn't do this. All right. They don't have the chops for it. We want people with that experience and that leadership management style. So it's very important that the people have the ability, and we're quite outright in telling them that. Okay. But if it is a good candidate, if it is someone who knows they can do it, and the why join FocalPoint instead of do it myself, that's a bit of a different conversation. And then we dive into, well, that's something that you and I will decide. You and we will decide. We're looking for a round peg and a round hole. And if it's not, either way, us deciding or you, we're both going to shake hands and we're going to stay friends forever. But if it is, then we're going to join forces. And the reason someone would is if they want to do it bigger, stronger, faster, more efficient. Anybody could start a restaurant, or they could start a restaurant with a franchise. There are significant differences there, just like there is with a business coaching company. And, frankly, we get many people who have come to us who have already been in business coaching or in consulting, and they want our tools, our IP, our coaching process, and the network of coaches to help them, which is also absolutely critical. They want to be, hey, I'm Coach Steve, but the brand is FocalPoint. So you have the power of the brand and the individual. It's not or, it's both. And it really helps people get off the ground quicker. And, I could go into hours of detail about our FP Connect, which is an AI driven system to help make connections for them as future clients, et cetera, et cetera. The shorter answer is because they can do it a lot faster and more efficiently and more profitably with us.
Okay. So I know there's more you can go into that, and we have more questions. So before we let you go for Friday night here on BizTV, if you've got a few minutes, we'd love to have you stick around, talk a little bit more about FocalPoint, so we can pop that on our bonus footage on our YouTube channel. You got a few more minutes to talk about FocalPoint with us?
I do if Danielle sticks around.
That makes total sense. I'll just sit over here in the chair.
I'll have better questions anyways. It's off.
Right, I know.
BizTV.
Anything, we'll give you one last little, anything, before we go here on BizTV that you just want somebody to make sure we know about FocalPoint?
I'm gonna maybe take it a bit away from FocalPoint. The last thing I would say to anyone is, franchising is fantastic. I tell everybody that we talk to, because you can use proven processes and systems to expedite where you're going. So I love the concept of franchising. I'm a big fan of it. But then I'd also say do something you have a passion for. Don't do it because you think it's the thing that will make money. Money will come in any franchise that you put your passion and your heart into. And if it happens to be coaching and training and teaching and mentoring people, then we're a great fit. If it happens to be in, pet care, that's great. There are franchises for that. Right. So I would say more just follow your passion, do something you love, and you'll get out of bed every day wanting to do it. You'll ultimately be more profitable.
I love it. And it's almost like you're speaking FranCoach lingo there with the get out of bed, right? And when you find that thing that you're going to be excited to go do every day, the money's, I don't want to say easy, but the money's going to follow, right? So, outstanding. So Steve, thanks for joining us. Don't go anywhere because we've got some bonus footage. And if you want to see that and all the rest of our stuff on YouTube, FranCoach for You is where you're going to find that. And of course, all of our team is at FranCoach.net. Until next Friday, that is Danielle Wright.
That's me.
I'm Tim Parmeter. Thanks to Steve Thompson, CEO of FocalPoint, for joining us. We'll see you next week here on the Franchising 360 show.